We're following breaking news. President Trump and the White House facing strong backlash tonight to the firing of the FBI Director James Comey. The president saying about Comey, he wasn't doing a very good job. Those are the president's words. Even though just last week the White House said the presidents did have confidence in Comey. Let's get some more now. The independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont is joining us. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
What's your reaction to the president's firing of Comey?
I think it is a situation where the president is impeding a significant investigation to determine whether, in fact, there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. As you know, Russia has been interfering in elections big time in Germany, in the Ukraine, many countries around the world. Our intelligence agencies all agree that they interfered significantly in the American election. They were in France last week trying to elect Le Pen, a very right-wing individual. So this is an investigation that has to go forward in a nonpartisan way. And in the midst of this, after Comey says, we are doing an investigation, after, according to the New York Times, he says, I need more money from the Department of Justice to do the investigation, after we know he was supposed to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee tomorrow, suddenly in the midst of all of this, after months and months and months, President Trump says, you're fired, you're not doing a good job. I think that his reason for firing Comey, he was concerned about how he treated Hillary Clinton. I mean, kind of give me a break. That really does not pass the laugh test. So I think what we need to do now is go forward, and it's very important that this be done in a bipartisan way. We need a special counsel independently selected.
But how do you select that person? It's got to be approved by Congress. There's got to be legislation, I assume. The president could veto that legislation. You would need a two-thirds override.
If that happens, then you really are in the midst of a constitutional crisis. But I would hope that within the bureaucracy of the career folks in the Department of Justice.
So far, it doesn't look like any Republicans support what you support.
Well, that is a sad state of affairs, and I hope that changes. The bottom line here is that the American people have a right to know whether President Trump's campaign colluded with the Russians. You know, it is amazing. I think a lot of people scratch their heads in trying to figure out why has Trump been so positive about an authoritarian type president like Vladimir Putin. What is going on? So is there collusion? Let's find out if there is.
And you speak about Comey. You're no great fan of Comey because
I am no great
we checked
fan.
In January 15th of this year, you told ABC News it would not be a bad thing for the American people if the FBI director were to step down.
Absolutely. I think the role that he played during the campaign was disgraceful. It was unprecedented, and it was one factor in helping Trump get elected. But right now, we're in a different place. Right now, we are in the midst of an investigation. Right now, this guy was supposed to testify tomorrow before the Senate Intelligence Committee. And clearly that investigation has got to go forward in as nonpartisan way as it can. To fire the FBI director in the midst of that investigation is totally unacceptable.
So what can you do to get your Republican colleagues on board? And do you have confidence in the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Burr, to conduct a thorough and complete investigation?
I'm not a member of the Intelligence Committee. I know Richard, and I've known him for years, and I hope that he does the right thing. Look, this is a very, very important moment. The American people do not have a whole lot of faith in the United States government, don't have a whole lot of faith in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or the political process. And I think we have got to stand up now in a nonpartisan way. Democrats cannot politicize this issue. It may turn out, you know what, that Trump's campaign was not colluding with the Russians. And if that's the case, that's the case. Forget about it. But I understand now that the White House is saying we've had enough discussion about the investigation. That's nonsense. The investigation is barely beginning.
Because that's what the Deputy Press Secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, said today.
No relationship.
No relation. I know she's no relation to you. Same last name, but she said, it's gone on for so long, it's over. Let's move on.
I mean, that's just an incredible statement. It barely has begun. You have the FBI director saying he needs more funds in order to pursue the investigation, expedite the investigation.
Do you have any leverage with the Republicans to get an independent counsel?
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, I think, you know, essentially the United States Senate does not function very well unless there's unanimous consent, unless there is a certain level of cordiality. And, you know, I hope, at this point, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to my Republican colleagues that they are prepared to do the right thing. Let me mention one area. Not my ideas, came from Senator Patty Murray, which I think would be a very, very good gesture. I think that as we proceed and go forward with the appointment of a new FBI director, right now, under the law, under the rules of the Senate, it would only require 51 votes to get that person in. I would think that it would be a really good gesture, given this moment where there's so much acrimony and so much distrust, that Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, say, you know what, we'll go back to 60 votes. We'll do this in a bipartisan way so that the entire country feels confident that the new director is not simply a political operative for Trump, but somebody who has the best interest of the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Because as you know, they passed that nuclear option, limiting it, going down from 60 to 51.
I understand that. You know, Democrats did their thing. But I'm saying that at this particular moment, as we look at a new FBI director, I don't think the country wants somebody who is simply going to be a activist or proponent for Trump's policy. They're going to want somebody who has at least bipartisan support.
One of your Democratic colleagues, Ron Wyden, a man you know, he suggested that maybe the Democrats should use parliamentary maneuvers to slow down confirmation of individuals for nominees for various positions, take other steps in order to express their outrage.
I hope it doesn't come to that, but that's what I meant when I answered your question. What can you do? You know, the Senate needs to function with unanimous consent. Otherwise, it really gets slowed down. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see that happen.
Give us some historic perspective on what's going on right now. Step back a little bit and give us some comparisons to other moments in American history. I ask you that as someone who's lived through some tumultuous times.
Well, you know, obviously the suggestion is it goes back to Watergate.
Do you see comparisons?
I see some comparisons. But what I think right now, at this moment, when there is so much distrust of the political process, when we have a president who, I hate to say this, lies a whole lot, when we have a president who has attacked media, you, as fake news, when we have a president who refers to judges who render verdicts against him as so-called judges, when you're seeing that attack on, in a sense, what the fabric of American society, people are nervous. And now you're seeing a president firing an FBI director in the midst of an investigation. So I would say this is a moment in which Congress has got to take a deep breath, slow it down. Let's do this thing right.
Senator Sanders, thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Bernie Sanders of Vermont. We're being told the Senate Intelligence Committee has just issued subpoenas. We have details on this breaking news. They're coming up in just a minute.